Hey guys, and welcome to another episode tutorial with me, Joseph Evans, author of the Secret Sequence books, The Phoenix Prophecy, The Ember Effect, Soulbound, The Secret of Rain, The Last Goodbye, and Glitch Girl. If you find my tutorials helpful and you'd like me to continue making them, then please take a quick moment to check out my Patreon page and see the different ways that you can support me. If you do decide to support me, you can get a range of rewards as a thank you from me, including early access to these tutorials, voting on what tutorials I make, episode goodie bags, shoutouts for you and your stories, and even personal help from me. Okay, today I'm going to be showing you how to animate your overlays. So I've already placed an overlay into a scene here. And there are 4 different things that I can choose to animate. These 4 things are position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Now for anyone who's not sure what the word opacity means, it just means how transparent or see-through something is. And while I'm on the subject of opacity, for some reason overlays always default their opacity level at 0, which makes them invisible, and you always have to write @overlay, then your overlay's name, then opacity and the number 1 whenever you create an overlay, otherwise it won't show up at all. This drove me absolutely around the bend for ages and I couldn't work out why I couldn't see my overlays, so hopefully this info will save you that same frustration. Okay, so for the position example, let's say that I want this truck to drive into the scene and come to a stop. To animate my overlay's position, the first thing I need to do is preview, and then place the overlay in the position that I want it to start in. Since I want this to begin off camera, all I need to do is drag it all the way to the left. Then I need to copy and paste this code into my script. Next, I need to move the overlay into the position I want it to finish in. So let's say somewhere by here. And copy and paste this code into my script. And because I don't want the truck to just suddenly jump from one position to the other, I need to add in the amount of time that I want it to take getting from this position to this position. Since I want this animation to last around about 3 seconds, I need to write in 3 on this line. Now let's see what happens when I preview that. Great, although it doesn't look very smooth. To improve the way that this looks, we can use something called easing. Now what this does is it changes the velocity of the animation. There are 12 different ease functions to choose from, and each of them makes the animation look different. Now the best thing to do with these is test each of them on your overlays to see which works best. But for something that we want to gradually come to a stop, the best one to use is something called ease out. So to add this in, all I need to do is write the word using in all lowercase letters, and then ease out as one word in lowercase. And now let's take a look at that. There we are. As you can see, that looks much smoother. Okay, moving on to scale. So I'm going to change backgrounds here and the overlay here to my logo for City of the Falling Sky, with the aim of making the logo pop out from the background. Once again, I have to make sure that the opacity is set to 1 so that I can actually see the thing. And the first step here is identical to the first step for animating positions. We simply preview our story and place the overlay where we want it to begin. So let's move this up and then scale it right down. There we go, make sure it's somewhere central. Copy the code underneath, paste that into the script, then scale it right up to where we want it to end up. And we're going to need to move that around again. Scale that down a little bit. Something like that, I think. Copy the end code. Paste that one in. And now, because I've adjusted both the position and the scale, I need to add the duration of the animation to both this line and the line underneath it, because the first line controls the position change and the second line controls the scale change. So let's say we want this to be quite a snappy animation. I'm going to put in 1 here, so this happens in 1 second, and in 1 here as well. And because I want the scale change to happen at the same time as the position change, I need to change this at symbol here to an ampersand. Otherwise, the position would change first, then the scale, and it would look very weird and completely wrong. So let's see how that looks. Very cool. And again, how about we use one of those ease functions? Maybe ease back out. So using ease back out, all lowercase letters. And of course, we need to do this on both lines now. So ease back out there as well. And we'll see if that improves it at all. Awesome, that makes it look so much more polished and professional. Okay, next up, rotation. So once again, I'm just going to change the background and the overlay. This time I'm going to use this purple orb that I created for Glitch Girl. So once again, I preview the story. And don't worry about this error on the left, that is just because my overlay hasn't been approved yet. And I'm just going to move this into the center somewhere. And let's say that I want this to rotate on the spot. I copy and paste the code into my script, as we have been doing every time. But you'll notice now that there is no button in the previewer to allow us to rotate it. And because of this, we're going to have to write our own rotation command from scratch using degrees. Now I want this to do one full rotation, so I need to write at overlay in all lowercase, the overlay's name, so orb purple cropped, then the word rotates all in lowercase again, and then the number of degrees that I want it to rotate by. So a full rotation is 360 degrees. Of course, if you only wanted it to rotate halfway, you would use 180, and if you wanted it to rotate quarter of the way, you'd use 90. And let's add in our duration. I'm going to say in 2 seconds. And let's just see what happens if I preview it with the code like this. As you can see, this is not doing what I want it to do. And the reason for this is that the anchor point on which it rotates defaults to the bottom left, somewhere by here, when I actually want the anchor point to be right in the center so that it rotates on the spot. So to shift the anchor point from here to here, what I need to do is add in the words anchor point, then 0.5, 0.5, after our degree of rotation, but before the duration. And let's see if that has fixed the problem. So it has fixed our problem, but it has created a new one in that it has moved our overlay to this point, which is where the original anchor point was. Now all we need to do to fix that is just move it again, back into position, copy and paste this code and replace the original code. And now, hopefully, this will do exactly what I want it to do. Excellent. And once again, I can make this look infinitely better by adding in one of those ease functions. Let's try the one called ease in out. So using ease in out. Awesome. And finally, onto opacity. Now let's say I want this orb to slowly fade away after it rotates. All I need to do is write at overlay, then the overlay's name, then opacity in all lowercase, and 0. So this is just resetting it back to being invisible, but of course we want this to happen over time so that it fades out. And that is just achieved by using a duration again, so in, let's say, 4 seconds. Now let's take a look at that. Fantastic. And of course, there's no reason why we can't combine these different animations. How about we have the orb fade in from nothingness while it's spinning and getting bigger, and then suddenly it comes to a stop and drops and bounces like a ball. To achieve this, all I need to do is make use of ampersand symbols instead of at symbols. So to get it to fade in at the same time as it is rotating, I go to this point here, so before the rotation command, and I write ampersand overlay, overlay's name, then opacity 1, and we want it to last the same duration as the rotation, so that's in 2 seconds. And of course, now because we want it to begin as being invisible, we want to change this 1 to a 0. So it starts off here being invisible, then becomes fully visible within 2 seconds while it's rotating. And because I don't want it to fade out anymore, let's get rid of this line. And to make it start off smaller, I'm going to need to preview again. Click on the scale tool, scale that right down, copy that code, and paste it in just before the original code that was put there to define the original position. Then change the @ symbol on this line right here to an ampersand, and we need to add in our duration again, so in 2. That means that these 3 lines all happen at the same time. So it goes from small to big, it fades in, and it rotates, all simultaneously. Let's just check if that works. Brilliant. And then to have this drop like a ball and bounce on the bottom of the screen, I just need to drag it all the way down. So by here, copy and paste that into the end of my script. And I think I dragged it over to one side a little, so I'm just going to correct that by changing that 3 to a 5, because we want it to drop straight down, not veer over to the left or the right. So I add in a duration, so I'm going to use in 2 seconds again, and the bouncing function is ease bounce out. Let's take a look at that all together. Okay guys, before I go, the only other thing that might come in handy when animating your overlays is having them perform the animations on an infinite loop while the action carries on around them. A good example of this is my opening scene in City of the Falling Sky when Sekiri is inside the monorail. The scenery flying by outside the carriage window is actually this overlay that I created by blurring one of the official backgrounds in Photoshop. It constantly moves backwards, then jumps back to the starting position and moves backwards again. And it does this so rapidly that it creates the illusion that it is scenery whizzing by outside. By setting this to repeat infinitely until the scene ends, the reader can progress the action forward while this is constantly animating in the background. Now the way to make this infinitely looping animation is to write ampersand overlay, then your overlay's name. Mine was monorail scenery, then shifts to, let's say 2070, whatever your starting position is. And then you want to put in the words then, all in capital letters. Then the words overlay in lowercase again, your overlay's name, then shifts to, and the end position, let's say something like minus 175. And then the duration that you want that to happen in. To make this happen really fast, I needed to use the duration of 0.3 seconds. And here are the magic words that will make this loop infinitely. You need to write the word loop in all lowercase, then the word infinite in all capital letters, and then the word times in all lowercase. And make sure that you're really careful about these lowercase and capital letters. More often than not, any errors that you have in your script are usually to do with having capital letters in the wrong place or lowercase letters in the wrong place. And also remember to make sure that this is definitely an ampersand and not an @ symbol, because if it was an @ symbol, your story would actually completely freeze up, and it is the ampersand here that allows the action to continue while this loops in the background. So there we go guys, those are all the ways in which you can animate your overlays. Using these tools combined with your own custom overlays, you can pretty much create and animate anything you can think of. If this tutorial has helped you in any way, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the helpful tutorials that I've got coming up. And if you'd like to support me and get some exciting rewards like early access to the tutorials and personal help from me, head over to my Patreon page, patreon.com/author Joseph Evans. If you have any questions about any of this, make sure to comment them down below, and if you know the answer to anyone else's questions in the comments, it would be awesome if you could give them a quick answer to help them out. Thank you so much for watching guys, good luck with animating your own overlays, and I will see you all next time.